A small Balkan nation of just 600,000 people, roughly the population of a mid-sized European city, could become the European Union's 28th member state within the next 3 years. While Montenegro races toward the finish line, 9 other countries are locked in an unprecedented competition to join the world's largest economic bloc. But this isn't just about economics. With Russia's invasion of Ukraine reshaping the continent's security landscape, EU membership has transformed from a bureaucratic process into a matter of survival. Ukraine itself went from a distant prospect to an official candidate in record time. Moldova fights off hybrid warfare while implementing reforms. And behind the scenes, an unexpected contender, Armenia, has just launched its own bid to escape Russia's orbit. For years, EU enlargement moved at a glacial pace. Turkey has been a candidate since 1999. That's 26 years of waiting. The Western Balkan countries have been knocking on Europe's door for nearly 2 decades. But February 24, 2022 changed everything. When Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, the European Union realized that its borders were more than just lines on a map. They represented a front line in a new geopolitical struggle. Suddenly, the question wasn't whether the EU should expand, but how quickly it could do so without compromising its standards. Today, 9 official candidate countries are pursuing EU membership. That's 9 nations with different histories, different challenges, and vastly different timelines for joining the club. But here's the critical detail. They're not all equal contenders. Some are genuinely on track to join within the next few years. Others? They're moving in the opposite direction. This tiny Adriatic nation has positioned itself as the undisputed leader in EU accession negotiations. Montenegro has opened all 33 negotiation chapters required for membership and has already provisionally closed 6 of them. To understand how significant this is, consider that no other candidate has reached this milestone. In June 2024, Montenegro achieved something unprecedented. It met the interim benchmarks for chapters 23 and 24 covering judiciary, fundamental rights, justice, freedom, and security. These are the toughest chapters, the ones that prove a country has genuinely reformed its democratic institutions. Once you clear these hurdles, you can start closing all the remaining chapters. Montenegro's government has laid out an ambitious roadmap. Close all negotiation chapters by the end of 2026, complete the ratification process throughout 2027, and become the EU's 28th member state by January 2028. What makes this timeline credible? First, Montenegro enjoys overwhelming public support. 83% of its citizens trust the EU, and over 80% would vote yes in a membership referendum. Second, the country has fully aligned itself with the EU's common foreign and security policy, including supporting Ukraine. Third, its economy has doubled its GDP in just 4 to 5 years. While Montenegro is racing steadily toward the finish line, Albania is making an astonishing sprint. In just 6 months, from October 2024 to April 2025, Albania opened 16 of its 33 negotiation chapters. 16. To put this in perspective, countries typically take years to reach this milestone. Albania's progress has been described as nothing short of stunning. What's driving Albania's success? The government has demonstrated political commitment, and the Albanian public shows clear European aspirations. Albania has also closely aligned with the EU's common foreign and security policy, signing a security and defense partnership in 2024 and hosting the EU's inaugural security dialogue in Tirana. However, Albania faces a PR challenge that's more substantial than you might think. Despite being an increasingly popular tourist destination with Europeans snapping up coastal properties, Albania carries a deeply entrenched reputation as a hotbed of organized crime. The European Commission's guidance is blunt. We recommend investigations of drug traffickers and an increase in identifying and dismantling of criminal groups. Perceptions matter in EU accession, and changing Albania's image requires not just policy reform, but a demonstrable track record of results. Now we enter more complicated territory. Moldova and Ukraine are in an unusual position. They're coupled in the EU accession process. They applied for membership within days of each other in March 2022, just weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine. And they're moving through the process together, even though their circumstances are wildly different. Moldova, with a population of 3.3 million, is Europe's poorest country. Yet it represents a fascinating geopolitical story. In a 2024 referendum, 50.4% of Moldovans voted in favor of EU membership, a result that was narrower than expected, attributed largely to Russian interference. Despite controlling the breakaway region of Transnistria, Moldova has moved decisively toward the EU. President Maia Sandu is staunchly pro-European, and Moldova launched formal accession negotiations on June 25, 2024. The European Commission positively assessed these roadmaps and confirmed that Moldova has met the conditions to open 3 negotiation clusters, with the remaining 3 expected to open before the end of 2025. What's particularly troubling: corruption in the judiciary and law enforcement is so widespread that it allows criminals to avoid prosecution, facilitating other economic crimes. The country is also wrestling with de-oligarchization, breaking the political and economic power of ultra-wealthy individuals who have captured state institutions. Ukraine's situation is even more extraordinary. The country is implementing EU-required reforms while simultaneously fighting a full-scale war against Russia. Parts of its territory are occupied, millions have fled as refugees, and its economy operates under wartime conditions. Yet, Ukraine continues to push forward with accession negotiations. This is where the narrative darkens. Georgia and Serbia were supposed to be making steady progress, but both have become concerning stories of democratic backsliding and institutional capture. Georgia is the tragedy. Once regarded as one of the most democratic and pro-Western post-Soviet states, it's undergone a shocking transformation. After the ruling Georgian Dream Party secured a controversial victory in parliamentary elections in October 2024, the country halted its own EU accession talks. Serbia presents a different but equally troubling picture. The country faces genuine challenges with organized crime and state capture. The president's government has subjected institutions, silenced the free press, and compromised the judiciary. The European Commission gave Serbia an ultimatum in October 2025. Either reform the voter register and the Council of the Regulatory Authority for Electronic Media within 1 month, or face consequences. Bosnia and Herzegovina achieved candidate status in December 2022, but progress remains glacial. The country struggles with organized crime, corruption, and internal divisions rooted in its post-war ethnic tensions. North Macedonia took nearly 50 years to get formal accession talks started, a record gap in EU history. Bulgarian objections over historical issues with North Macedonia and language disputes delayed the process for years. Once Bulgaria lifted its veto in 2022, negotiations finally began. But progress has been slow and steady, rather than dramatic. We're witnessing a pivotal moment for Europe. The European Union is finally ready to expand again after a 12-year pause, and the frontrunners, Montenegro, Albania, and potentially Moldova and Ukraine, represent a new generation of European states betting their futures on Western integration, despite Russian pressure and internal challenges. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe.